So Chris Cuomo, right now. Chris Cuomo was on the PBD podcast with Candace Owens, and he is going to make Candace Owens
look like a genius.
Look like a genius statesman, Winston Churchill, FDR, and Abraham Lincoln all wrapped up into one. Let's watch.
You also have to recognize that Tucker just went over and interviewed Vladimir Putin. And this is significant because then you saw what it looks like when somebody not only has the mental faculty, I mean, irrespective of what you thought about the interview, you cannot, you are forced to acknowledge that he's an incredibly smart person. I mean, he started in the 8th century.
I think that it is not good that you're using Vladimir Putin as some type of positive attribute metaphor for a leader.
Okay, one sentence in, and he's a genius already. New York elected the wrong Cuomo. Am I right?
Cuomo.
Chris Cuomo is basically an opinionated doorman from the west side of New York.
They're smarter than that.
He's just supposed to say hello and goodbye to the ones coming and going, and then secretly talk sexist and racist shit to the elevator operator all day long. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
That's not what I did at all.
Well,
you're saying that you're saying,
well, he's smart.
He is smart. So why would you not acknowledge someone smart? What does that do? Does that make me a Putin supporter? Because you're clearly smart.
No,
if you can sit down and unpack Russian history from the 8th century, what do you mean? What the point? The point is to say that the entire world can now see this contrast of a man who can't remember what happened 2 hours ago, who still thinks that his son is alive, sadly, and often brings up his son as if he's still alive.
True.
What do you mean that's not? What is not true? What is not true, Chris? Actually say what is not true.
You're really going to say that Joe Biden believes that his son Beau is alive?
He has done that on camera. He has said
he has misspoken as an old man that is talking about something.
So him trying to defend.
Well, that makes it a lot better.
So to defend Joe Biden's mental acuity, you say he's just an old man, which means his brain isn't working well. That's another way of saying his brain doesn't work because it's old. He just undermined his own goddamn point. Chris Cuomo's head is he's in over his head because his head is up his ass. That's why.
It's all New York. Want to hear a real quote from a guy, comic in New York, when I did Noam's podcast?
Yes.
He goes, well, Biden sounds good sometimes in some of the clips. That was his, are you shitting me? So occasionally you think he sounds good sometimes, and that's your measure of good.
So the bullshit narrative that shit libs like Chris Cuomo have been yoked with is falling apart in front of their eyes, and they're angry at anybody who notices. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the rest of this, and I'll try not to stop it.
The problem, listen to you. No, because see, Chris.
Listen,
there's no reason to do this. You're doing so great. I'm not going to let you do this to yourself. Like, what? No, seriously. There's no reason to do it. Obviously, Vladimir Putin is intelligent. There's no reason, doesn't make you anything to acknowledge the fact that any person that can for an hour straight unpack the history of their country starting from the 8th century has their mental faculties about them. Okay. That is the only statement I have made, and I said that contrast is now playing out in the American people's mind of, wow, okay, I don't care what I think about Vladimir Putin or Russia, right? But the fact that they have a leader who can speak in this manner, right? Who is able to remember these things and to communicate in this manner makes us aware of how much we are not getting out of our own leaders. That is a very valid point.
Okay, I get it. I hear you. And I completely disagree, okay? Because again, picking a metric of what's the guy's IQ is not enough for me. First of all, he did not give you. I'll tell you why. Because it's what do you do with your intelligence? You think he gave you an accurate recitation of Russian history starting in the 8th century because Candace just said so. She's wrong and you're wrong, okay? He did not give you an accurate recitation. He gave you a KGB.
I actually majored in Russian history, and I can tell you he was completely wrong. What are you talking about? Would Chris Cuomo know if that was an accurate representation of Russian history?
She didn't say that either. She said he sounds smarter than the moron we have.
Yeah, let's say he was able to recite the KGB history from 800 AD. That still shows he has mental acuity that Joe Biden does not have.
Which is the only point she made.
So Chris Cuomo is conditioned to not hear this point.
Yeah.
He's acting like Candace touched him in his no place.
I'll tell you what a good smart leader does. A good smart leader sends 80-year-olds infected with a novel SARS variant to nursing homes throughout his state so they can mingle with people who haven't caught it yet.
So Chris is basically believing the propaganda he's been yoked with, but by CNN, right? I mean, that's basically it. He's standing up for the CNN narrative. And Chris, do you remember how CNN treated you? Do you think they treated you fairly? Remember you were going to launch a lawsuit after you got fired from CNN? You're a guy that they like.
Yeah.
Just keep now. Do you think their reporting is fair on a guy that they hate? That's what he's telling us to believe. Do you think their reporting on Putin and Trump is fair? Look what they did to you, and they liked you. You don't have to like either of them, but you don't have to act like you're a 5-year-old. I would say Chris Cuomo is acting like an adult child of an alcoholic, but that would involve him being an adult. So let's listen to the rest of this. Hang on.
Doctored look at why it's okay that he wants to reestablish the Soviet Union. That's what he gave.
Oh, stop it.
Listen, I'm not here to play Russia good, Russia bad, okay?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
The Soviet Union, he said.
He wants to reestablish the Soviet Union. That is the last thing that he needs to do. By the way, Russia's doing much better economically than before the war.
We're the Soviet Union.
Yes, that's right.
Jesus Christ.
And the biggest opposition to Putin, insofar as there was opposition within Russia, is the Communist Party.
That's exactly right. We're the ones with 1,000 military bases around the world, not Russia. We're the imperialists, not Russia.
We invaded Afghanistan too.
That's right, and occupied it for 20 years. We're occupying a country right next to Ukraine called Syria, a third of that country, the part of the country that has the oil. We're the ones who did Iraq. We're the ones who did Libya. We're the ones who did Somalia and Yemen. We're the ones we're the world's terrorists. It isn't Putin. This is, again, this is like having a dinner with every comedian I know in Los Angeles. That's what this is like.
It's very sad.
He was on the news. I understand.
This guy is supposed to be a newsman. This is a newsman. People get their news from this guy.
Well, in the end, he's Democratic Party royalty. His family is. And after he had his falling out with CNN, he made some noises about he's going to go after the truth. He's going to go independent. It's an election year. And if you don't toe the party line, these people have a long memory, and none of them really want to be kicked out of the club.
Yep.
None of them want to be out of the club. It's all bullshit.
Let's listen to him embarrass himself a little bit more.
Smaller GDP than California. He's
so
not,
what? So what? They're also invading a country right now just for avarice.
Americans are economically.
He just said that they're invading. That Russia is invading Ukraine just for avarice.
Just for avarice.
Just for avarice. Just for kicks.
The ignorance.
Wow.
So unintelligible that they are going to believe the threat that we are facing today is Russia trying to reestablish. So this is like Cold War propaganda. We gotta move on from that. Okay,
but it's just as real now as it was then.
1960s.
It wasn't real then. It wasn't real then, you idiot. Oh my God.
So he's saying the Cold War propaganda was real, just like it is now. It's just this guy will cling to the propaganda that he's been yoked with like a drowning person clings to a life preserver. He's not going to let go, because if he does, he'll drown and he'll be dead. He's like Mayo in An Officer and Gentleman. I got no place else to go.
Yeah.
I got no place else to go. What am I going to do? Start telling the truth? I'll end up like Tucker Carlson.
With ratings.
Yeah.
In America, these people are allowed to be here right now doing things they could never do in Russia. Never. Nobody can speak out against Putin. He is at over 75% in popularity polls because people know what happens if you answer differently. They make no money. They have no press freedoms.
I don't. Again, he's just making things up.
I can't even say women don't have dicks here, Chris. You unbelievable. And by the way, they have dicks. I want to make that clear so I can have money and a job.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tucker went to that supermarket and didn't look like people didn't have any money. Didn't look like people didn't have any jobs. Didn't look like the shelves were empty. None of that.
Jackson,
this is a common thing. Like when these foreign leaders who we don't like have these high favorability ratings, we always say, "Well, that's because the people aren't allowed to say they don't like them." I mean, what if their standard of living is suitable?
Let's say they hate them.
And so they're relatively happy with their what if they
hate us
thought
more
of that possibility?
Their economy's doing great.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be, they go to the grocery store. Like Tucker said, you can go to the grocery store. You can get a few boxes of cereal for less than $100 or whatever the equivalent is.
Jackson Hinkle's in Russia right now, and he says it's some of the best food he's ever had, the cleanest cities he's ever seen.
Tara Reid lives there. She posts all the time. It looks great.
Yeah, let's try to get through this because we got to do a locals today.
Try to exercise themselves even on the internet.
Starting to sound like chased. America today. January 6ers are locked up for wrongthink. You locked up grandmas for expressing their opinions.
That is something to be concerned about.
You are saying that
if you speak, to be concerned about.
That is correct. Freedom of press. You're sitting here. They wanted to arrest Tucker Carlson for going over to speak to a leader of a country that we are allegedly not at war with. The model we just said that it's very obvious that Putin can complete a sentence and that Biden can't.
Yeah,
and
he can complete a sentence. He can also likely murder his opponents.
I mean, they have nothing but propaganda. He has nothing but propaganda. People couldn't do it. Right now, they're locking up their political opponents. They're killing the greatest, most decorated journalist of my lifetime, Julian Assange. They're not only Donald Trump and January 6th and the MAGA movement are they making illegal and criminalized. They're doing it to the black socialists. They're doing it to the Stop Cop City people. The same grand jury and the same RICO statute they use to prosecute Trump, they're using against Stop Cop City protesters. This idea that again,
it's concerning. It's concerning.
The Biden administration is currently appealing the Missouri ruling that the federal government cannot interfere with tech platforms' regulation of their users. So they won't let that judgment stand. They want the right to be able to approach tech companies to complain about what's on their platforms, which the judge himself said, well, to claim that just contacting them isn't interference, that's like the mafia boss saying when you call up, you're not really making a threat. You just say, hey, maybe it would be a good idea if this guy's not on your platform anymore. They're appealing that. So what are you talking about? What press freedom are you talking about? Taibbi did a great article after the State of the Union about he said, with the press going nuts about what a great speech it is, what would the difference be in North Korea or at any
or the old Soviet Union
state? Yeah, what would the difference be? What is the difference here when you look at
some new material? Yeah. Biden did the same goddamn material from the last one. They'd have some new jokes.
All right, let's fizzle. There's only about a minute left of this. Let's play it out.
By the fact that I acknowledged
that, what are you, 19? That Putin... We're using 19-year-old woke language now that I'm triggered?
Okay,
I'm not triggered. I got my legs crossed. It means I'm comfortable.
Okay, well, you just seemed a little triggered.
I don't like setting up Putin as a model.
I didn't. Nobody here, everyone is listening to what I said, and I'm going to not just double down, I'm going to triple down, quadruple down on the fact that it's very obvious to the American people that our leaders are extremely lackluster, and that has been made even more abundantly clear after having watched Tucker Carlson sit across from Vladimir Putin, which was heroic on his part, because we are tired of being propagandized. We are tired of people pretending, if you live in Russia, there's going to be so much propaganda. There's so much propaganda here.
I agree.
Okay, we are suffering from the exact same things that you accuse Vladimir Putin of doing.
I agree.
Locking up people's opponents, right?
I agree. I don't agree with locking up their opponents.
FBI agents showing up on American people's doorsteps because they attended a rally on January 6th. 3 of my friends had FBI agents. They didn't even step foot in the Capitol, okay? Had FBI agents show up because they wanted any person that even showed up to hear Trump speak on January 6th to feel threatened by that, because the establishment said that you weren't allowed to support Donald Trump.
So That's the world we're living in, and jackasses like Chris Cuomo are conditioned to not believe any of it. And he argues like a high schooler.
I felt bad for him.
And you should feel bad for him.
I did.
Because that whole crowd knew he was an asswipe.
Yeah.
And everybody who watches this video knows he's an asswipe. And he's making Candace Owens seem like a sage, genius statesman. And she is compared to him. No doubt.
Well, she is. I'm watching that. And okay, so take those words and imagine putting them in the mouth of a radical of yesteryear, and they wouldn't be out of place. You could put those words in the mouth of Abby Hoffman circa 1968. Well, why aren't we talking to Russia? We're tired of being propagandized. This is why left and right don't mean anything anymore.
That's right.
It doesn't mean anything. Candace Owens, that line of thought, re-Russia, that is like the radical take on the old Soviet Union. Why aren't we talking to them? Why do we have this hostility? Why don't we send journalists there? And the people who are supposed to represent the left, laughably, like Chris Cuomo, are real. They sound like the old McCarthyites.
Yeah, he's just absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. Although, I mean, I do have to confess, I don't hate him as much as I should. You guys did a segment on this. Ever since I saw the Adam Friedland interview with him, with the Dua Lipa, she would shit in my mouth. Like, that is Internet Hall of Fame material. That was high art because they actually made Chris Cuomo come off likable. Like, you actually liked him during that interview.
Mullen told me he was
I just
likable.
Can't bring myself to hate him.
Nick Mullen told
he was
me
likable in that interview. That was like Andy Kaufman level art, where you take an odious guy like that and you actually make him look relatable and funny and likable. That was genius. That interview is Internet Hall of Fame level genius. Because as you can see, outside that context, he's insufferable.
His skull is a veal cage for his brain.
All right. Unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to end it today. I appreciate everybody who's watched. I want to say thank you to Russell and to Keaton for taking time out of their busy days to be with us. Everybody check them out at Do Dissidence. That's with an E-N-C-E. Do Dissidence with an E-N-C-E. Not with a T. I thought it was with a T. It's not.
I did too.
Thank you very much for having us. And before we leave, I want to say, because the reason I came on, I want to hear you say, I have better hair than Ryan Grimm.
Oh, you do. You have much better hair than Ryan Grimm.
And Kyle Kalinske.
Oh
All right. I got what I needed.
Okay. All right, fellas. I hope we'll be out. I'm going to be out in New York, I think, early June. I hope you'll be around.
Oh yeah, we'll be.
We're going to come out and do a thing for Jose Vega.
And come see me.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there.
Come see me at Magoobies.
Oh,
at the end of the month.
At the end of this month,
March 29th through 31st, I think.
Kurt will be at Magoobies, which is a great club in Baltimore. It's a great club. All right, fellas. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Denver, Colorado. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.